welcome back to, no.
That didn't work for me.
No, well, I said,
Okay.
It didn't go. You have to do it.
Okay, well, welcome back to We Watch Dead People. It's a podcast where it's me, Will, and...
Oh, me, Emma.
Yes, and we watch horror movies. I like them.
And I don't.
Emma doesn't, yeah.
There's the general premise.
Yeah, isn't that novel? It's not...
This week we watched The Exorcist, which I'll do housekeeping.
Okay.
Okay, The Exorcist. It's a 1973 film directed by William Friedkin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, William
Yeah,
Friedkin.
I think
It was
so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Pronunciation-wise, I know it's William Friedkin. I think that's how you say his name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your name's William. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it.
Friedkin is the questionable part. But anyway.
Well, it was adapted by William Peter Blatty, who wrote a novel of the same name, The Exorcist. And it starred Ellen Burstyn, Linda Blair, Max von Sydow, and Jason Miller, who, fun fact, had never acted before. He was a playwright.
And also, fun fact, won Pulitzer Prize for Fiction the same year this movie came out.
Wow, so many fun facts.
Yeah, right?
What I immediately want to get into is that you claim that people think this is a super scary film.
It's still the movie that, like, every year when the scary movie comes out of the year, the one that everyone says is the scariest, they always compare it to this one. They always say the scariest movie since The Exorcist. It always happens.
Okay, well, I told myself I wasn't scared by this movie.
Should also note that the last movie, our first episode, we did Hereditary, and we watched it at night with no lights on. The Exorcist we watched like on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of the day. Afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of...
It was after 12 p.m.
Yeah, it was just a very different environment, but I still think it is incredibly scary.
Well, that's the thing. I told myself I wasn't that scared of Hereditary either, yet every time after we've watched a horror movie, like that night going to bed, I get like a little spooked.
Yeah, and I think that this...
But while watching it, I wasn't...
And this movie takes place primarily, like, in a bedroom. Like, that's where all the scariest stuff happens, for the most part.
Yes, okay. The parts that were supposed to be scary were actually scary.
Well, and that's the impressive thing about it, I think, is that it's, let me do some bad mental math. What is that, like 45, 46 years old? And...
I don't know, don't ask.
I think it's 46. And the special effects hold up. They're like all practical, but they're very, very well done, and they're very scary.
But it takes forever to get to them. Like, the plot of this movie is bizarre.
I don't know.
Yes, there's a lot of fluff. Like, it begins with the archaeological dig.
I'll admit that I forget about that every time going into the movie, because it's like not part of the... It's not part of what you think of when you think of The Exorcist.
Well, I didn't
it's like
forget about it because I was like...
Archaeological dig in Iraq.
Yeah, like, I was like, how is this going to play into the plot? And then I'm still not sure. Like, I get the little statue or amulet or whatever is supposed to be a representation, I think, of Pazuzu.
Yeah.
But I don't know how we find it, and then we're in Georgetown, and it doesn't come in again till the end.
Well, because Pazuzu is the demon that takes over Linda Blair.
How, though?
Well, because she plays with that Ouija board.
How is that connected to the amulet? You see, I'm unraveling.
Well, it's a statue. I don't know that they're related, other than Father Merrin, Max von Sydow's character, like, is aware of Pazuzu because he has a history of exorcisms.
You're right.
So he feels some sort of link to it. Evil link. And then it affects Linda Blair, and so that's why he has to get involved. I also think you're maybe looking a little too hard at it.
What?
Yeah.
Don't look at the plot of movies when
I'm
talking about
not saying not to look at the plot of the movie, but like he has some sort of like supernatural connection to Pazuzu because he's in this sort of eternal struggle against it, and so then the movie goes to George.
Where is that set up? Just finding the amulet, we're supposed to know he has an internal struggle with this demon. Okay.
Well,
no,
whenever Jason Miller's character, what's his name?
Damien, right?
Damien Karras, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever there are talks about how to help this girl, they end up getting Father Merrin because he's conducted exorcisms before and like.
Right, and
so
that's where he comes back.
Yeah, so he's been
which
fighting.
Is near the end.
He's been fighting these demons for decades. He's entrenched in the battle against. Me
too.
Yeah, well, so that's how he ties in.
Okay. No, I get that they bring him in because he's done exorcisms before, whatever. I don't know. That aside, I think the other difficulty that I had with this movie was that they never really acknowledge until the end, until they're actually doing the exorcism, that it's something really supernatural. Like all the characters, and by that I just mean the mom and the doctors that she go to. Like no one's like, I feel like in every other horror movie, they're like, they hear a creak and they're like, a ghost? And then it turns out to be a ghost.
Isn't that more realistic?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it was like odd to watch because the doctors were like, who knows what's happening? And I'm like, you're in a movie called The Exorcist. It's probably a demon.
Okay, well, you're being unfair. It's like, they spend a lot of time going through it. I actually think in retrospect, one of the silliest parts of the movie is like, when they sit down with that panel of doctors to assess what's wrong with Linda Blair, and a couple of them...
with Reagan.
Well, played by Linda Blair.
I just want you to be fair to Linda Blair.
They're in agreement, several doctors are in agreement that it's a demon, like it's a supernatural entity that they need. Like, that's a little ridiculous, but I think what is more realistic and scary is them going to the doctor and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with their kid. Something that I think a lot of parents probably had to do in some form or another, obviously not probably this extreme.
I don't think so.
But then it turns out to be this
demon.
Yes, this demon that has taken over this little girl. And
a metaphor for puberty? Probably not.
But it could be. I don't know. But I think that the movie just sort of... I don't know, it's got a lot of disturbing imagery. It's got subliminal imagery.
I will say, watching a child take a pair of scissors to her genitalia was...
It was a crucifix, it wasn't scissors.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, either way, it was horrifying.
Well, she's yelling...
No, don't say it.
Well,
this is a family-friendly podcast.
No, it's not. The Exorcist is rated R. I mean, she's yelling, fuck me, Jesus, while she stabs herself with it.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that put me off.
Well, I think...
that was scary.
So then imagine how people in 1973 probably felt about it.
This isn't for them.
Well, yes, it was, because that's when it was made.
I'm talking about what's happening right now.
Okay, well, that's fine. But imagine how people...
I'm just saying, I'm in agreement with you that was scary, and it was probably scary back then. I just think the plot that happens around it is really kind of weird and all over the place.
I don't think it's all over the place. I think it is weird, but it's...
Like the part with Damien's... Oh, no, wait. I was going to pick a bone with the fact that they bring in his mom and it's just like, why are we learning this about that priest? But then Pazuzu is like, your mother's in here.
Because,
I know.
The real main character...
The
real main character of the movie is Damien Karras.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's about his internal struggles with faith and
that was not very believable. He was like, I think I have to leave the church. And they were like, well, we'll think on it. Also,
What?
Yeah.
What do you... That was like perfectly believable. He comes in and he's already doubting, and then his mother's death really pushes him over the edge. But then he has this sort of... you can't deny the supernatural nature of the occurrence with Pazuzu, which leads him to self-sacrifice at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, which restores his faith
Restores his faith, he's dead.
Well, yeah, but he sacrifices himself to save that little girl.
Yeah.
That's an act of faith.
I just found him very passing. It was like for the first half of the movie, she like saw him across...
He's the main character.
No!
Yes, he is.
Okay. But not to me.
Not to you. That's not how that works.
Ellen was the main character to me.
No, she's not. What did
I'm
she
talking
do?
about to me.
What does she do?
She's the one that brings Reagan to the doctors, who's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Who's like friends / the director, like,
but
dies.
she's passive. Like, everything's going on around Ellen. She's sort of...
And she's in the center of the eye while things are happening around.
But what does she do to affect them? Not much.
Well, the main character's just... Okay.
She goes to the doctor and they tell her no, so she goes to the priest and then they handle the problem. She's a central character, but she's not the main character, and you don't have a whole lot of reason to care about her other than her daughter is going through this terrible thing.
The most terrible thing. That's why I feel for her. I don't, Damien, like, everybody's mom dies or will die. Not everybody's kid is possessed by
But he has the most
Pazuzu.
He has the most meaningful, like, philosophical problem in the movie.
Okay. I don't know. I wasn't enchanted with him, and I don't know. I wasn't enchanted by him. No. I didn't think he had that much on-screen charisma, and his story was passive to me. And it felt like every shot that was on him lingered a little too long. Like, the movie felt slow.
Well, it is over 2 hours long. It, like, takes its time.
Yeah.
But it's very well made.
Yeah.
The camera work is really good. I think, like, those kinds of shots build a lot of tension and mystery, and the movie does that really well.
I just think if a movie feels long, I don't like it as much, regardless of whether or not it is long.
I think that the only part of the movie that drags for me is that opening sequence in Iraq.
Yeah, there's a long time spent with, like, the doctor walking down a street.
Yeah, and, like, crawling through the ruins until he gets to the statue. That's the only part, though, that really drags for me. I think that movie moves... I mean, it just starts being pretty scary from a pretty early point. Basically, from the first time the bed's really racking around, that's when the movie starts to get pretty uncomfortable, and then they start peppering in, like, the one-frame shots of the devil.
Yeah, that was kind of scary, but it, like, happened so quickly. I was just like,
again,
what?
it's one of those things that if you watch it at night, I think really bothers you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. There's something about it when you're watching it for the first time, if it's at night, and you're kind of locked in and you don't expect just, like, a demon face to flash on the screen.
But it really did. It just flashed.
Well, yeah, really they do it a few times.
I didn't even, like, 100% register.
They do the really stark ones where it's, like, it's the black background with the demon face, but then even a couple other times they, like, flash it in the corner of shots and things like that. It's pretty clever. Because it kind of just... It comes and goes so fast that it's kind of hard to register, but you know it didn't feel good. And so it adds to this tension in the movie. The makeup work also on Linda Blair is really good. The final scene, like the actual exorcism, when she levitates into the air and her eyes roll back into her head, is like one of the scariest things I've ever seen. It is just so haunting. It gets quiet and just like she rides.
Her getting sicker and sicker just visually was scary for me.
Oh, like, yeah, the way her face starts to crack.
Yeah, and crumble, and she just looks...
She's oozing. Yeah.
Oh, and there's a lot of green slime.
Yeah. The vomiting of that is... that's one of the things about this movie. Friedkin was apparently like a pretty hardcore director, and so he would just like do stuff without telling people that it was going to happen. And so in one of those shots, I think Jason Miller gets hit with like the green vomit, and he didn't know they were going to do that. And so he was apparently really pissed off, but that's the shot they had in the movie. They also had a few other ones where like, I think like Ellen Burstyn actually got like hit in the face or something and fell down. And I think I read that she was mad that they included that because she was upset she got actually hurt, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's a pretty hardcore movie. There's also...
that kind of stuff creeps me out, where it's like the director will do anything to get the shot. It's that in itself scares me.
Well,
No, I mean, like, everybody remained safe and they made a great movie, and I'm sure they were all very happy with the product. I just feel like that's a horror movie in itself.
well, I think that there actually was a lot of there was a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Like they always talk about how there was like a curse on The Exorcist, because I think a bunch of bad stuff did actually happen.
Oh,
like,
what kind of, like, a production of Macbeth?
Yeah, or Poltergeist is the other big one.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, Poltergeist, like almost everybody who starred in the movie, like died a couple years later. Or
Oh,
something.
like Heathers, where, you know, in the funeral scene, the guy's like, I don't ever want to kill myself, and then that guy actually went on to commit suicide, and then the one who said they didn't want to get cancer actually went on and got cancer. Am I thinking of the right thing? I don't know if it was cancer. Maybe it was a heart attack.
That sounds right.
Something like that. But I don't think people generally think of Heathers as cursed.
Well, I know that like a few actors died during the making of the movie. There was apparently like a fire on the set, and the bedroom set was completely untouched.
Creepy.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's it's just kind of a lot of weird stuff. And just to go back to the practical effects, I think so much of what goes on in the movie just like there's just a lot of stuff in there that I think gets under my skin now. So like for an audience in the early 70s, like the stabbing of the crotch with the crucifix, they have Linda Blair using the C word a lot at her mom.
Yes,
and
indeed.
There is a lot of like sexual language coming from this little girl, and then the stuff like the spider walk down the stairs, which might not have been in the original movie. They might have added that later, but no matter, it's still scary. And
what do you mean? How can they just go back and...
Well, people recut movies, and I think they added that one. Or there are several different versions
The
of it.
urinating...
One of them where she just comes down and like she has like a spider tongue or a snake tongue, and then the one that we saw, which I think is the last version they edited, she like has the mouth full of blood. And then of course the head spin. Both of them. There are two of them.
Yeah. Creepy.
The first one is worse, if you ask me.
I think that's like creepiest, most like thing to me, and it seems small compared to the stuff that goes on to happen. But when she walks down during the party and just pisses on that carpet, I was like, oh, that's because not even just demon possession. It's like, oh, your kid is disturbed. Like something's really wrong.
Yeah.
And so that I saw, and I was like, ah.
Well, I think that's part of the reason it's scary. It like starts with those like little disturbing things and pretty quickly builds into some much more horrific and nefarious things. I think maybe that initial leap from like, you know, wetting yourself in front of people to like when her head turns around, she's like stuff flying around her room and she's stabbing herself and slapping her mom, and oh god, it's just it's that's a big leap, I guess, but it's still it's very well done. It makes you very uncomfortable to watch. But I think that the plot with Father Karras is really what makes it such a good movie. It's like the character development. I don't know, you just don't see characters that are going through that kind of struggle so much in horror movies. And it's even rarer to see them sort of be outside the affliction for most of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And only at the end does he really like take it on. I think that's pretty interesting.
I don't know. That's where we're just in disagreement. I didn't like his character very much.
So then you
couldn't have roll your eyes all you want.
So then
William,
you couldn't have liked the movie very much.
I thought it was fine. I told myself when we got up from watching it, I was like, I'm not that scared. But then when we were laying in bed that night to go to sleep, I was like, ooh, I feel a little icky in my stomach, and I know what I'm thinking of. But overall, yeah, it was fine. I didn't dislike it. it felt a little long to me, and he Father Damien didn't, I didn't connect with his struggle, and I didn't super see it. I mean, like, I understood the basic plot, but I was kind of like, meh.
Do you understand, or do you respect why it's like a classic movie, or do you just...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the special effects, especially, like, I'm really into special effects.
I'm not, by the way, just to clarify, cool. I wasn't asking you, like, respect this movie. I was just wondering if you, like...
And if you were trying
if you
to,
agree
I
with,
wouldn't care.
I know. I just was trying to ask if you agree with that.
Yes, it felt very... what I think is supposed to be classic horror, and I don't 100% know what... I haven't seen a lot of horror movies, but watching it, I was like, okay, I see how this could have inspired a lot of things and a lot of people to do something similar worse.
Well, I think especially because of how transgressive it is. I mean, if a movie was made right now where a little girl... I go back to that one scene because it's so messed up, is impaling herself in the crotch with a crucifix.
Horrifying.
And then tries to put her mother's face down in that bloody zone. It's just like...
Zone.
I'm just trying to...
Differentiate your language? Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
Go on. So puts the mother's face down in her bloody zone.
I didn't want to be too gratuitous.
Once a month, people sometimes have bloody zones. Go on.
Just trying not to be gratuitous. I'm sorry.
And I forgive you.
But if you made a movie like that now... people would freak out. I think that would be really quite appalling for a lot of people to see. It's kind of crazy that they made it in the 70s. I've never seen another movie quite like with a scene quite like that.
Me neither.
Which, maybe is a good thing. I don't know. It's kind of a miracle to me that somebody could make a scene like that and have it be a part of such a great and classic movie. I think as you watch more horror movies, as we do this more, you'll see it. Like, that movie's influences turn up more and more.
No, and that's what I said when I was giving my little spiel. I was like, I can see how it would influence other movies.
I just think you'll start to see it, actually, like, see the things.
See it with my eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
See
where
how
I see from. I got you.
Yeah, okay.
No,
Well,
I'm excited to see some influences. I didn't think it was a horrible movie. I just, initially when it ended, I didn't feel that scared. I wasn't particularly moved by Father Damien's struggles. I was way more moved by the mother's horror. And it felt a little long for me. That's my cut. That's what I've got.
I think it's interesting to talk. I know I've harped on this quite a bit in this episode, but I think it's interesting to talk to people who actually could see it when it came out. Because...
Oh. Should we go talk to your dad?
Yeah, well, he hasn't seen it because he hates horror movies more than you do.
You're right.
So he got scared at Pirates of the Caribbean 2 in theaters.
You don't need to out him like that.
That's funny.
But that movie had some serious...
There's one jump. There's
serious
jump.
Ups and downs.
But my mom, I think she went to see it. And my mom does like horror movies. Sort of the inverse of you and I here.
Yeah.
And, my mom she could tell you about how it was pretty out there for a movie of the time. I think this one and Rosemary's Baby are probably the two most well-regarded classic horror movies. So we'll probably have to do that one at some point in the future.
Okay. I don't know anything about it, so...
Well...
I'm assuming it's about a baby.
It is. It's got Mia Farrow. It's directed by Roman Polanski, so that's not so great. But it is really scary.
Okay.
So we can do that one. But I think...
Great.
I think Emma and I agreed that the next episode we'll do will be the new Jordan Peele movie, Us, which at the time of this recording comes out in just a few days. But, I'm
We're
really
excited. We're debating whether or not we want to see it in theaters right when it comes out. I think we decided that we're going to see it the next day in the afternoon.
Yeah, like a matinee.
Yeah. So there's less people. We don't like people.
Well, it's more so that, watching The Exorcist or something on your couch, it's just us two.
Yeah.
But going to the movies...
And Ralph.
Oh, and Ralph, the guinea pig. I don't know if... We haven't talked about Ralph on here, but...
We have a guinea pig.
he's afraid of the horror movies. He goes to hide when we start them usually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think horror movies in theaters, you're just more locked in, and I think it's a scarier experience. But if you're in the wrong crowd,
It can derail.
it can actually ruin the movie more so than like any other kind of movie. Because if people like people laugh as a defense mechanism, or like will talk, and that'll just ruin it. So,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be popular, obviously. I mean, Get Out was such a big movie. And
I really liked Get Out.
Get Out was really good.
Did that count as a horror movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I mean,
so
like
I
a
like
little
a horror
bit,
movie.
a little bit.
I really like that.
I think
But I'm
this one-
genuinely terrified to see Us.
Well, I think it's supposed to be more straight up horror. I did read that it has some comedic parts, but I think it's not
Yeah,
purposefully less funny than Get Out was. Haven't seen it, of course, but
No.
but yeah, so we'll probably go to a matinee and check it out.
And then when we come out, we can come out into the daytime.
That's right.
Thank goodness. Because I'm not kidding. I'm really scared.
Well, I apparently it's really good, so I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, me
And
too.
it'll be our freshest episode to date, so
Fresh.
thank goodness.
Like a tomato.
And yeah, okay. So hopefully you enjoyed that one more than you enjoyed The Exorcist, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, but hopefully we'll have a few episodes up by then, so we'll do Us next time, and we'll see what's what after that.
And we'll see what's what.
Yeah, okay.
What's
Well,
what?
So thanks for listening.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much.
we'll do it again soon.
See ya. Bye.